Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. Joining us by popular demand, Matt VanDyke, coming from the capital of Ukraine, wearing a Ukrainian military uniform. Matt, glad you are well. Glad you are here. Welcome back to the show.
Thank
Where are you in Ukraine, and what are you doing there, and why are you wearing the uniform of a foreign country?
Well, today I happen to be in Kyiv. I'm usually not here. I'm usually deployed close to the front line, but we had to get a new suspension put in the truck, so I'm back in Kyiv. Unfortunately, can do this interview. I'm in Ukrainian military uniform because I'm in the Ukrainian military. I'm in a unit that is a unit comprised mostly of non-Ukrainians and some Ukrainians, but within a Ukrainian battalion.
Are there other Americans in this unit with you?
Yes, there are a few. The
And
nationalities are Chilean, British, Australian, American, and some more coming.
how does an American, a young American male, end up in a foreign military in a foreign military uniform?
Belief in the cause, belief that democratic countries in the West, should be defended against the aggression of Russia. If you don't believe it, you're not going to come all this way and risk your life to do it. There's quite a number of foreigners serving in the Ukrainian forces. I don't know exactly what the number is. I've heard numbers that go up to 2,000 total. Um, some of those are a lot of South Americans are coming over now. They're not all Americans and Europeans. It's quite a diverse force. Um, a lot of them serve in what's called the International Legion, but some, like myself, choose to serve in Ukrainian battalions. But it's there's a lot of people serving this war, a lot of people that believe in the cause, and a lot of foreigners have lost their lives fighting it. Well,
Or are you free to leave the Ukrainian military, or are you there under some sort of either compulsion or contract or agreement with the Ukrainian government?
we're here under a military contract, like any other soldier in the force. But I mean, the truth is, non-Ukrainians are free to leave their military service at any time.
Does the government pay you for your services, the Ukrainian government?
We're paid the same as Ukrainians, the same. So there's nobody here who's doing it for the money. Let's put it that way.
All right, I don't want to get overly technical, because you're risking your life in a cause that I believe is not worthy, but I still respect you and am fascinated with what you're doing. And I think most of our viewers are fascinated with what you're doing. Obviously, you have your detractors among them, but you are an American wearing a foreign country's military uniform, being paid by that foreign government. I mean, does that make you an agent of the foreign government, a foreign agent who has to register as such with the United States Department of Justice?
Not according to American law. It's not the first time I've served in a foreign military. I served in the National Liberation Army of Libya in 2011 in the fight to overthrow Gaddafi. And Americans have served throughout the history of the country, have served in the armed forces of other nations, particularly, for example, World War I, before U.S. got involved in that war, as just one example. World War II as well, before the U.S. became involved. So there's a fine American history of Americans doing this. Uh, as far as us getting paid, we're required to be paid by Ukrainian law if we're serving in the forces. Myself and others would probably just reject our salary if we could. I rejected my salary when I served in Libya, but in Libyan law, we have to be paid, and it's really not much money at all. So it's definitely not about that. It's just a
Have
requirement.
have any Americans in your group or in any other group in the Ukrainian military been injured or killed?
A large number have been.
A
Uh,
large number?
Not any in my unit, but Americans serving in the Ukrainian armed forces. Quite a large number have been killed or wounded.
Well, we don't know that in the West. Young American males like you wearing Ukrainian military uniforms, fighting against the Russians for and with the Ukrainians have been killed in combat.
Right, Americans and various nationalities have been killed, particularly serving in the International Legion, which is a part of the Ukrainian military, fully comprised of international fighters. Within my unit, none have been injured or killed, but my unit's also quite a young unit.
How many Americans, to your knowledge or to your best understanding, have been killed wearing a Ukrainian military uniform?
I don't know what the number is, but I mean it's
For
made.
5 or 50 or 500? Can you get a handle on it?
Oh, I would say closer to 510 of the Americans have been killed. Quite a few more injured. Um, it's made the press. There was a former Navy SEAL who was killed several months ago. It doesn't make top headlines, but it's in the media if you look for it. There's also soldiers when the mission that I did, the one mission I did with the International Legion was to recover a KIA who was a former British soldier and former Israeli defense.
KIA is killed in action.
Yes, yes. His body hadn't been recoverable because of worries about landmines, and also the Russians had overwatch of it with a machine gun. That's a mission that I went on to help recover the body. He was a former IDF soldier who was also former British military. So there's people from all walks of life who are here serving.
Where are you going, without telling us what you shouldn't, once you leave Kyiv? Are you going to the front lines somewhere to engage the Russian military?
I'm going back to my unit. At some point in the future, my unit will be, of course, deployed to the front line to engage the Russian military.
Isn't this a fool's errand? Aren't the Russians just overwhelming the Ukrainians? Aren't the Ukrainians just, I think this is your unit there, one of the photos you sent us. Aren't the Ukrainians destined to lose this?
No, they're certainly not going to lose. It's just a matter of what the margin of victory will be, how much land will be recovered. Uh, right now, it is a stalemate. Even the Ukrainian military has admitted that, I believe, as of today. Things are not going as well as we had hoped, but it's going about as well as I expected, considering that we launched this offensive when we did. But, we'll have aircraft next year, next spring and summer. We're getting new weapon systems all the time, and we'll give it another go.
Tell us about these pictures, the group picture, Chris, if you could put that up again. Are you in this group picture where the 10 or 12 or 15 of you are standing around? That one and the other one. Are you in that?
Yeah, I'm in the one where we were in a circle. I'm pretty much in the middle there in the far distance.
Okay, and how about the group? How about that one where we've
Hold on.
sort of whited out the faces?
I'm second from the right, the only one whose face I didn't blur out.
And what are you carrying?
AK-74, which is my weapon of choice.
And who issued that to you?
The Ukrainian military issues the weapons.
And who manufactured it?
We have limited choices. I mean, we have choices between Polish Grots, AK-47s. Some units have access to American-made M4s.
Okay, the AKs are Russian, are they not?
Yes.
Okay. What became of the spring offensive, Matt? The Ukrainian spring offensive, about which President Zelensky talked in his various tours here in the U.S. And in Europe.
What happened to it is exactly what I warned was going to happen to it on all those appearances on your show during the winter preceding that spring. We needed to do that counteroffensive last winter. Russia was at the weakest it was ever going to be. They were back on their heels after our fall offensive that was successful. And instead, we gave them, from winter to summer, several months to entrench, to put up lines of defense, to dig anti-tank trenches, to put up dragon's teeth, to put up landmines, and to recruit and equip more of their soldiers. So we gave them time to build a defense. We shouldn't have done that, but the past is the past. Now we have to break through that defense.
So the spring offensive failed. The Ukrainian military, of which you are now a part, did not succeed in taking back any territory. Is it fair to say the Russians are still moving westward?
We took back a little bit of territory. It's very difficult to apply the combined arms warfare that Ukraine's been taught without the benefit of air power. We are getting F-16s, but they're not coming for a few more months. We will have them for the next attempt at a counteroffensive next late spring or summer. And ATACMs have been given. There's new weapon systems that have been given when it shows that that's what we need. But it's a difficult war, um, and we're taking a military that is starting from scratch and trying to teach them everything that the American military has trained on for years, and then sending them on their way and expecting them to be able to do it. It's going to take time. It's going to take this military has to get some experience doing this. They've made adjustments to their strategy over time and the tactics they apply on the battlefield, and they'll continue to. And I think we'll see a lot more success in the future once we have some air support.
You don't seem as enthusiastic as you did about the prospects of Ukraine, either victory or stalemate or a cessation of the fighting, as you did a couple of months ago. Is that am I reading it correctly, Matt?
Uh, well, we've had a lot of casualties. I mean, there's a little bit of war weariness on all sides, I think, and that's naturally going to happen. Uh, that said, I mean, everybody's still committed to doing this. Uh, we have new recruits coming to our unit, foreign fighters all the time. There's Ukrainians who are still enlisting. People are optimistic about the future because new weapon systems are still coming to us. We're gaining experience. We're adjusting how we fight. It's. I always said it was going to take a couple of years for this war. I think by next fall we're going to know essentially how this war is going to turn out. When we have time through the summer and the fall with the benefit of air power to give a counteroffensive a real shot, um, by this time next year, I think we're going to know if we're going to end this war having reclaimed a lot of territory or whether it's going to be a stalemate and a long going, low intensity warfare conflict or not. But I mean, we're all here. We're still pushing forward. We're all still
Wh-
running lives for it. So
what is the morale of the Ukrainian troops?
I think it's certainly better than Russian troops. Uh, you know, we had a lot of optimism, or I had reserved optimism, but Ukraine had a lot of optimism about the counteroffensive. I think they put a little bit too much emphasis and confidence in Western technology to solve a lot of the problems. But at the end of the day, a landmine or artillery, just methods that have been used for decades, will kill a soldier just as easily as the highest tech weapon system. And they found that out the hard way. They found out that Bradleys cannot just storm through minefields under artillery fire and get through unscathed. A lot of that misplaced confidence has been realized now. So yeah, morale's suffer a little bit. It's been a lot of casualties, but again, uh, there's definitely a commitment to liberate this country. And just like any war, once you're in it long enough and enough sacrifices have been made, you need to make those past sacrifices worth it. So you double down and keep going. Ukraine is not going to cede in this conflict uh, ever, I don't think.
Are you willing, Matthew VanDyke, to give your life for Ukraine?
I wouldn't be in the uniform if I wasn't. Uh, it's about Ukraine. It's also about things bigger than Ukraine. It's about the principle that the international system that my grandfather fought for in World War II, and that a lot of people died for decades after that, needs to be preserved. We can't allow Russia to just steamroll into countries and overthrow democratic governments. A lot of lives and effort and sacrifice have been put into creating a world where that doesn't happen, and I'm willing to fight and die to preserve that.
How do you feel about fighting alongside those who embrace a Nazi ideology?
I haven't encountered any of them. Um, I'm aware, I suppose, that they exist. In any military, there's people of all sorts of beliefs who are in militaries. I've been in conflicts in the Middle East where there were jihadists on the same side as me, and as long as they shoot in the right direction, I really don't care. Those sorts of differences within Ukrainian society can be worked out after the war is over between them. Um, but really at this point, if they're shooting the right direction, I don't really care. I'm not the thought police. Um, I don't want anything to do with people who have such ideologies. But if they are out there on the front line, I haven't met them, and as long as they don't try to push it on me or get in the way of our mission, I really don't care what's in their heads.
The the Zelensky government opened up to a reporter from Time magazine whom President Zelensky trusted, and he has written a scathing, scathing piece now making the rounds in the West. I don't know if you've seen it, but in the report, those around President Zelensky, there's some lines from it up on the screen. Zelensky feels betrayed by his Western allies. We are out of options. We are not winning. Try telling him that. He deludes himself. He's delusional. I'm fairly quoting and fairly paraphrasing, I think, from the article. I can't imagine that this is making the rounds in the Ukrainian military. But if it is true, if it is accurate, what does the future hold for President Zelensky, for the Ukrainian military?
I haven't seen the article, but a sense of betrayal. Like, I mean, the West could have provided weapon systems that they're only starting to provide now. They could have provided them early on. There was way too much concern about angering Russia and provoking Russia to nuclear conflict. None of that was ever going to happen. Um, there was just a little bit too much caution, a little too much delay on getting those systems, particularly the air power. That we really needed those F-16s before attempting any counteroffensive. But what's done is done. Hopefully, America learns better for the next time, whether it's Taiwan or whatever it is, not to screw around with holding things up the way that they did. But there's blame to go around on all sides. There's technology and equipment that came from the West that came with a good amount of advice that wasn't heeded. Um, there's also just the delays of equipment. There's a lot of blame to go around. Post-mortem on this conflict, which I hope is one that is largely successful, and lessons learned to apply to the future rather than lessons learned to avoid in the future. But there'll be a lot written about what went right and what went wrong in this conflict. But we're a long way from this ending, and I'm still confident it's going to end well for us.
The conflagration in Gaza between the Israelis and Hamas has almost totally removed Ukraine from the front pages, so to speak, here in the West. People don't even talk about President Zelensky anymore. Maybe that's the reason this Time magazine piece has such currency and such vibrancy. But the Israelis seem to be at the head of the line of American aid. We read that the U.S. ran out of 155 millimeter artillery shells to bring to Ukraine, to send to Ukraine, and instead was sending cluster bombs. And then the U.S. found a warehouse full of 155 millimeter shells and earmarked them for Ukraine. And then the fighting broke out in Israel and in Gaza. And then, it's a long question, my apologies, the 155 millimeter shells were diverted from Ukraine to Israel. Okay. Will Ukraine suffer because of America's political and military focus on Israel?
I don't believe so because of the timing. If the Israeli-Palestinian conflict had kicked off at the beginning of summer or even a couple months ago, it would have made a difference. Now we're heading into winter where the intensity of the conflict goes down quite a bit because of weather, because of, well, mostly the weather issue uh, between Russia and Ukraine. So the intensity will drop, the need for ammunition will drop. Um, by the time that spring and summer roll around, I think the increase in production will solve those problems. I'm not too concerned about it.
The reports in the West are that the Ukrainian military has lost between 400,000 and 500,000 fighters. That's an enormous number. for a contemporary army, even historically. That's an enormous number. How many are left? Where are they
I
getting them? Where
I
are they
don't
getting them
where
from?
I don't know where these figures are coming from. These figures are far in excess of anything that I've read or seen. However, it's a country of 40 million people. You can walk around anywhere and see plenty of military age males who are available to go fight.
Are they
Uh,
being grabbed off the street by recruitment officers and police?
I've yet to see that ever happen. There is Um, but there is no desperation where teenagers are being grabbed or senior citizens or it's not we're not anywhere close to that happening in a country of 40 million people and the casualty numbers that we have. There's not a shortage of people going to fight here, and
Do you,
foreigners still come to fight.
do you ever have second thoughts about leaving the United States, going to Ukraine, putting on a Ukraine uniform, subjecting yourself to the chain of command of a foreign government and a foreign military and fighting one of the mightiest armies on earth, Russia, in a foreign land? Do you ever have second thoughts about that, Matt?
Beyond occasionally missing my life in the United States, no, I don't have any second thoughts or doubts about what I'm doing.
Okay, we appreciate the time. I won't even tell you what the people are, what the viewers are writing in. Sometimes they love to hate you. I wish you well. I hope you stay in one piece. I think this whole thing is delusional that Americans are doing this. I think the war is nearly over, and Ukraine doesn't have a future. But go ahead. I'll give you the last word, my friend.
We'll see if I'm still on the show next year and we're having this conversation, and Ukraine has at least survived that long.
Well, I hope you can come back to the show. I hope you can come back to the show from the front lines, but from some secure place where you can describe for us in real time what's happening. And just man to man, of course, I wish you well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom. More coming up as the day progresses. I can't get my hands around Matt, except that as a human being, I wish him well. But I don't think the Ukraine military is long for the world. We'll talk more about that later with our guests coming up on the show. More as we get it. Judge Napolitano.